Sounded pretty good.
It's good choice today.
Yeah, I mean, even fat doughy guys like us could dance to it. So
Yeah, I know.
that's saying something
It's
right
helpful.
there.
It,
Yeah,
it helps us out along the way.
a little overbite while you're doing it.
Builder?
That's old school.
Well, we're live, so we gotta stop dancing.
Oh
But
yes, please.
welcome back, guys, to another episode of TFLnow Live. I'm joined by
Nathan.
as always, well, almost always. And today we're talking about sports cars, Nathan, and more specifically, the 15 best-selling sports cars of last month.
That's right, and we have a little extra nugget that we were saving from last week, which includes some Craigslist vehicles that are somewhat fast for under $5,000. That comes later.
Yeah, so these sports cars on the list today are sports cars you can actually buy for under 60 grand. We tried to keep them relatively affordable. And, you know, it's models that people buy more commonly than those big, expensive, high-end supercars like, I don't know, the McLaren 720S that Roman drove a couple weeks ago.
Well, we're also talking about vehicles that are cheaper than $100,000, which we also covered last week.
Exactly. We did those with the most powerful cars you can buy for under 100 grand.
That is correct. But this is a much more reasonable price tag. This is something that some people who are aspirational but not crazy rich can actually get. Somebody who is making an average income, middle class.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
something you can look forward to. Maybe.
We're also going to answer your guys' questions throughout the show, so please send us questions in the chat, and if you donate to the Super Chat, those questions will rise to the top because they flash a giant notification on our screen. And of course, welcome to the hood. You guys can help us out by donating to the Super Chat with a number of different rewards for each donation. So $5 will get your name on the hood, $10 gets you a TFL truck bumper sticker, $25 gets you a TFL car or truck patch, and $50 gets you a hat, which can be signed. It's up to you. You let us know what you want. If you do make a donation in the Super Chat, we really appreciate it. Please send us an email to info@tflcar.com so we know where to send it. You got to send us your address so we can send you guys your stuff. But please join the hood. And, well, before we get into the list today, Nathan, we got to talk about Tesla.
All right, fire away.
So Tesla recently revealed its Q3 delivery numbers, and the Model 3 actually racked up a very impressive number. Over that last quarter, it did 55,840 deliveries of the Model 3, which is a big ramp up in production for Tesla, which looks pretty good. The Model S also did 14,470 units, and the Model X did 13,190 units. So those two are pretty close. Now, of course, the quarter is the past 3 months, so if you want to know the monthly figures, you can divide that by 3 and figure out the average of the month. But there's also been some crazy news going on at Tesla. So what is going on with Tesla?
Well, the Securities and Exchange Commission actually busted Elon Musk, for lack of a better word. He's going to have to pay $20 million $20 million each.
So they
$40 million.
The SEC sued Tesla and Elon Musk, basically.
Yep.
For some tweets that he made.
Yeah, but he'll have to resign as chairman of the board, but he is still Tesla's CEO. So he's not completely relinquishing power.
Now, we don't want to spend too much time talking about this today because on Friday we're going to do another live show where we're going to go way deeper into some news about Tesla, get into some details.
And other electric vehicles out there as well, not just Tesla. So the bottom line is that, he's still running things, but at a diminished capacity. And
with $20 million less
out of his pocket and
yeah.
another $20 million out of Tesla's pocket. Now the question is, of course, is that some of the money that they borrowed from the government that he's paying back to the government?
That's a funny question, isn't it?
Just kind of curious. But good news for sales on them. They actually sold. That's a lot of cars.
55,000 units in 3 months is pretty good.
If you look at some of the top-selling cars out there, this competes with them. That's actually really impressive. So, kind of good news, bad news. All right, let's move on.
Let's move on to the list. So once again, these are the sales figures for the 15 fun, affordable sports cars that are available for under $60,000. Of course, Nathan, it's the beginning of the month, right? October 1st was 2 days ago.
Right.
And that's when the manufacturers release all the sales information from the previous month.
Which is what we're going to cover. So we're covering September of 2018 with these sales numbers. And that's starting with number 15, which is the Audi TT.
Audi TT sold 66 units in September. It's a slow seller, down from 157 units in September of 2017, so a 58% drop. But there you go. Number 15 is the Audi TT. Have you driven the newest one?
No, Roman wouldn't let me. But the good news is I drove the one prior to it, and I thought that was good. And supposedly the newer one is even better. But the bottom line is, unfortunately, sports cars are a very small segment, especially in the United States. So these numbers are tragic, but they're also very realistic. And hopefully, Audi will be able to increase that number when they release a new model of the TT. Supposedly, they're going to have a couple new trims coming out soon.
Indeed. So the TT is based actually on the MQB platform, which it shares with cars like the Volkswagen Golf, the Audi A3,
Jetta.
the Jetta. What's interesting though is that the TT-RS comes with a 5-cylinder turbocharged engine, much like, actually exactly like the one in the Audi RS3 that you guys got to drive or race at the track last week. So if you want to see what that engine sounds like, go check that video out because it sounds pretty awesome. Now, number 14 is a car that I just finished a review on, actually. It's the Volkswagen Golf R, of which they sold 227 units, which seems like a very small number, but that's actually up 220% from September last year.
That is correct. Now, this is a limited car. This isn't one of those that's going to be making a major impact in our market. It doesn't technically go up against the GTI, which is in some ways a lesser sports car, and that has much higher numbers for sales, and it's a much more affordable car. And one of the problems I would say with the Volkswagen R is the fact that we're talking about an all-wheel drive turbocharged vehicle that really does fit in such a small segment that maybe customers with WRX anxiety may want to look at, but otherwise I don't think it really hits too many markets.
Yeah, you know, they've in the past they would limit the Golf R to 5,000 units of production for each generation. This one, I think they went away from that the 5,000 limit, but they still don't produce a whole lot of them. I think the reason this one did better compared to last year is because it just got facelifted, right? This is the Mark 7.5, as they're calling it.
Right.
But it could be the case that we see the Mark 8 Golf R coming maybe 2020. We don't exactly know yet.
Yeah.
But that'll be coming soon, so keep an eye out for that. Number 13.
This is a really old car. This is the Nissan 370Z. They sold 278 units. That's down 11.7% from last year, where they sold 312 units. This is a really old platform and a really old car. And a lot of people are asking, including myself, will Nissan finally update this vehicle and build a new sports car for the everyman? Because that's really what the 370 is supposed to represent. All the Z cars are supposed to represent that. Something that is somewhat affordable to get into and have a proper sports car. Unfortunately, they've gone away from that formula, and this isn't the first time they've done that. Back during the days of the 300Z. Man, that vehicle became so damn expensive. Roman actually owned one. And the bottom line is, yes, the technology is awesome, and some of these cars are terrific, but they're getting out of hand with price. So they have a new Heritage edition, but there are no major changes really to the vehicle.
I have a suspicion about this that I've just developed because I was thinking about it. I wonder if Nissan is going to bring out a new 370Z or a new Z car with the introduction of the new Supra. Maybe it'll be the case that Toyota brings out the new Supra and then Nissan comes along maybe a year later and says, here, we have a new one too.
That's some of the people out there, some of the fanboys who I've talked to think that's exactly what's going to happen. Other people think that they're going to have a kind of sort of crossover version of the 370 that comes out and call it the Z crossover or whatever. Some people think it's going to get a CVT. Yeah, there's a lot of scary stuff out there, but hopefully Nissan hasn't forgotten their roots and they will make this a proper sports car that can compete with the Supra. And if they undercut it with both price and then went over in terms of horsepower, which I think is possible, it would be a pretty cool car and would definitely be newsworthy. So we're going to have to wait and see. I don't want to speculate on something that, frankly speaking, could break my heart.
Indeed. Number 12, the Subaru BRZ. Last month they sold 284 BRZs, down 5.6% from September of last year. It doesn't sell quite as well as its cousin, which is the Toyota 86.
And that'll be on a different list.
It'll be actually a little later in this list.
Different on this, right?
It's kind of the same car, but there are some minor differences. The BRZ is a car that technically we haven't had the chance to test because Subaru doesn't
we tested one of the first generation, or when they were
a little while ago.
Yeah, a little while ago, and it's not that much different than the other one.
I recently had the chance to drive the BRZ TS, which is a 1 of 500 limited edition that they did, and they fixed like everything that wasn't wrong with the car and did nothing was to fix what is wrong with it. They put all this aero, all this suspension, all this tuning to the chassis in there, and then they didn't do anything to the engine. Charge you like $4,000, $5,000 more for it, and it's still super slow.
But you got a big wing, right?
Huge wing.
Big wing.
Big and some pink trim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun. Okay, number 11. The Fiat 124 Spider, 286 units. Basically the Fiata, right?
Yeah.
Down 16.6% from September of 2017. And this is kind of going along with the trend for Fiat as a brand who's really losing momentum.
In the United States.
So do you think that the Fiat 124 is going to stick around for a while, or do you think it's going to go away soon?
Well, I think they're going to try to keep it along for the next couple of years. I mean, they have a couple $1 million in the design. And the good news is that the Abarth version of it is supposed to be really, really good. I've heard great things about it. Unfortunately, we're not seeing a lot of that car, and hopefully we'll get one of these over at TFL soon. Because the regular one, well, frankly speaking, it was just a slightly heavier, slightly slower Miata.
And the brand new one it has a new exhaust on it too. So it sounds a lot like the Fiat 500 Abarth.
Which is a cool sound.
Sounds awesome. I'm excited to drive one of those too. I hope we get one soon, especially with that new exhaust, because I really want to test that out. Number 10, we just talked about it, the Toyota 86, 325 units sold last month, down 38.7% from September of 2017. Okay, now we can talk a little bit more about this car because we've driven this one a fair amount. It is a really fun car, right? That chassis is wonderful. It's got a good engine, although it's pretty underpowered.
Yep.
Especially because of that giant torque dip from like 3,000 RPM up to 5,000 RPM or whatever it is.
Yeah, launching the car is not easy either, you know. But the bottom line is that this was never a car meant for people who wanted to go in a straight line fast.
No.
It was meant for people who either like to drift and or go around corners very quickly. Its platform, its body, its overall control is excellent.
Really
Steering
good.
feedback is
Superb.
phenomenal. It's not exactly what I'd call a four-person car, but you can put small humans in the back seats. And it's sort of a successor in a way to what the original Mazda RX-7 would have been. You know, something small and zippy that you could really spin the engine and have a lot of fun, but you're really not going that fast. So, unfortunately, both Toyota and Subaru have decided not to beef up the engine, and there are options out there to do that.
You can supercharge it or turbocharge it.
But they have a turbocharged engine that'll fit right in there.
It's the same exact one as the one that's already in there. In fact, they just haven't turbocharged it.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, maybe they don't want to eat into WRX sales. Who knows? But
be.
the bottom line is that it's a platform that could use a more powerful engine. But Toyota's about to come out with the Supra, so you know it's hard to exactly figure out what they have in mind for this car. I have a feeling it's going to go away fairly soon.
It's hard to say. Number 9 on the list, we're getting into some of the more expensive cars, actually. The last few have been actually pretty affordable. Number 9 is the Porsche 718, or the Boxster and the Cayman. They sold 329 Boxsters and Caymans last September, or this past month, which is actually down 24% from last year. So I actually just had the chance to drive a very special Cayman. I was down in California after doing a Kia event, and I went to this big Porsche meet called Rennsport, and one of my friends has a Cayman GT4, which they took 3.8 liter flat six, stuffed it into the Cayman, did all this cool aero and stuff like that, and then voila, you have a really interesting car.
Sounds like a beast.
It is quite a beast. And actually, I want you guys to let me know. I wasn't sure if there would be interest in a review on that car. I think I could probably get the chance to review it if I flew back to California at some point. So if you want to see a review of a GT4, let us know, and we can try and make that happen. The Cayman is this new Boxster has been... it was updated pretty recently, and it's a really good car. We have an old Boxster sitting right there. It's the affordable Porsche, but it's mid-engine. It's incredibly well handling. It's just a really fun Porsche to drive.
Yep, and moving on to number 8.
Number 8 is the Mazda MX-5 Miata, which we just got one of those today in the office. 756 units in September, down 10.6% from September 2017. You tell us about the new Miata, because you just drove one.
Well, it has a horsepower bump and a torque bump and an MPG bump and almost an everything bump. Recently, they've gone through that whole car and they've tightened things up. They've changed things internally in terms of the engine block, everything from the pistons to the crank, all the way to the fuel injection system. Everything has changed, and what you get is a more powerful car that is more capable and at the same time gets actually better mileage. This is never... Just like in certain ways, just like the Toyota 86, it's not built for straight line speed. However, with this newfound power, it is a much quicker car and it's a lot more enjoyable. I'm actually kind of sad to see that it's down 10.6% because it's a better car now. So hopefully, hey guys, this is probably your best bet for having a vehicle that you could drive every day and take to the track. I would say it's way better than the Toyota equivalent.
I think it's much better than Toyota. My favorite feature on this new one, it's got more horsepower, it's got more torque, it's got better MPG, but you know what else it has? A telescoping steering wheel, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but I'm 6'2", and let me tell you, getting into a Miata is not an easy process.
No,
for me.
it's not a big car, and unfortunately, if you get in as a passenger and you're tall, you're going to be uncomfortable pretty damn quick because unfortunately, this passenger side isn't as comfortable. But the bottom line is that it is an improved car all the way through, and hopefully, we'll see those sales increase because the car deserves it. It's just a fine driver's car. Let's move on to number 7, which is another vehicle that is a fine driver's car.
The Mini Cooper hardtop. They sold 1,265 units last month, which is actually, we finally broke 1,000 units in the month of September. So, of course, there's the 2-door and the 4-door models now of the Mini Cooper hardtop, but that is actually down 9.1% from the same time last year.
Yeah, my only explanation for that perhaps is the fact that they haven't done much to refresh it for this year.
Yeah.
There are other Mini models out there that have been refreshed, updated, or even brand new. There is one good bit of news for those of you who are looking for a very inexpensive Mini and you're currently going to school or you've recently graduated. They actually have a special program for a base model Mini, which has a couple goods in it that bring up the price about, let's say, $6,000 worth of cool stuff for free. If you can prove that you are either a college student or a college graduate, you can get that car for way under what you would normally pay for a Mini Cooper. So go and check it out on Mini if you're looking for an inexpensive one.
Wow, number 6. This one I have a personal connection to. The Volkswagen Golf GTI sells 1,428 units last month, which is actually down 35.6% from September of 2017, in which they sold over 2,000. This one's surprising to me because the Golf R was up a big percentage, right? And we suspect that's because of the facelift. Well, the GTI also got facelifted, and it went down. And I'm not sure exactly why that happened.
Now, the GTI is still, they haven't really moved the price around or anything, but they did remove the 3-door option. There's only a 5-door available.
They did remove the 3-door option, and they did increase the price a little bit. They went up about $1,000.
That might have something to do with it.
Might have something to do with it. That being said, the GTI is one of the best sporty car bargains. I don't know if it's fair to call it an outright sports car. One of the best bargains out there. You can get a base model for around $26,000, 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, manual transmission, limited slip diff in the front. It's just a really good car to drive. I've owned one for 3 years, and I absolutely love it. I highly recommend it to anybody who's interested.
Okay, the next one on the list, the Chevy Corvette. Now, this one, look, guys, we know that the mid-engine Corvette's coming, but I'm surprised that it's dropped 10.5% from September 2017. This past month, they sold 1,547 units. That's not great.
Not great. Yeah, so do you think it's the case that people are holding off for the C8 for the mid-engine?
I might be part of it.
It might be part of it. Also, actually, the C7 Corvette is kind of getting on the older side now. It's been a little while since they introduced it.
Yeah, it's true, but it's...
They did the Z06, they did the Grand Sport, and now they most recently did the Z01. So they've released their peak performance model, which they usually do towards the end of the life cycle of the car.
Well, we'll see what happens. We have both the LA Auto Show and, of course, North American International Auto Show, where we might be hearing some interesting news about the Corvette, so fingers crossed. Let's move on to number 4, which is the Subaru WRX, and then number 3 is the Camaro from Chevrolet.
Yeah, the WRX, no surprise there, 2,383 units in the month of September. It's down 5%, which is a little weird. Turbocharged, all-wheel drive, up to 310 horsepower if you get the STI. They put the WRX and the STI together in their sales figure, so
yeah, that's not a surprise. But they're 2 different engines on those vehicles, so they're 2 different models.
They are 2 different cars for sure. The WRX has a 2-liter. The STI has a 2.5 still. It's that really old engine. But they're both actually really fun cars. I think the WRX is the better buy right now because I think that STI's engine is just so ancient. But anyways, number 3 is kind of the more interesting car here. Chevy Camaro, they sold 4,816. So we're taking a huge jump in sales figures now.
Yeah.
But that is down 15.8% from September of 2017, where they sold 5,720 units. Anything you can get, you just drove this new Camaro actually. You can get anything from a 2-liter turbo all the way up to the big 6.2-liter V8.
That is correct on the ZL1, and then you have tons and tons of power. But regardless of how much power you have a car that actually handles so much better now. They've really done their homework when it came to the physics of making the car faster. However, they made a mistake.
Uh-oh.
They managed to alienate a lot of buyers by changing the face around so drastically that a lot of people have an issue with it. And I'm on the fence. I don't know whether or not I really like it or hate it. I love the rear of the car. It's got a great butt. But the face, not so much. And that might be affecting sales. It actually may have to do with aesthetics, which, hey, if you're going to own a fun sports car, why not own one that you are proud of physically as well,
looks
right?
good. Yeah,
you
exactly.
look back at it when you're walking away from the parking lot and everything else. So, yeah, the sales numbers are down, but they're still doing pretty good. Now, another vehicle that's doing really good is number 2, the Dodge Challenger, which sold 5,462 units this past month.
Yeah, that's actually one of the few cars on this list that is up from September last year. They sold 4,780 units in September. Now they're above 5,000. I mean, there's so many Challengers to pick from, right? You have the Hellcat Red Eye, 797 horsepower for just over 70 grand. I mean, that's an insane deal. You can get the Scat Pack, the regular Hellcat, the wide body,
the RT.
There's just so many options. The V6, if that's what you're into. There's an all-wheel drive one. It's a huge range of choices, and maybe that's why it's doing so well, is that there's a Challenger for everybody, so everyone who's interested is going to go buy one.
Now, one thing about FCAs, they have a tendency to take old platforms and find new ways of stretching them out and making them last a long time. And a really good example of that would be like the Jeep that recently was replaced with a new Jeep, in other words, the Wrangler, or perhaps the Ram that was replaced with a new Ram, which is the 1500. What they've done is they've taken those platforms and they've gone past the expiration date, way past, and they found new versions of the vehicle that you guys would at least look at. It's not that everybody's running out and buying a Red Eye or even a Hellcat. It's getting people into the door, going to the dealership and saying, oh, that's really cool, but I'll buy that RT or I'll buy that all-wheel drive GT, I think is what they call it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what they're doing, and they're absolutely genius at doing it. And that, that 14.3%, guys, that is nothing to sneeze at, especially for something where literally the steel stampings and everything else for that car are super cheap for them to do.
Yeah.
They're making a lot of money off that car. Good for them on that one because, well, frankly, we like them.
And number 1, actually, I have to point this out. Someone who commented right at the beginning of the show, Maria Miranda pointed out actually the top 3 right away. And number 1 is, in fact, the Ford Mustang, which sold 5,770 units in September. That is down once again, but only 1.3%. So it's a small decrease. Whoa. Coco for Kosh. Question, nothing to do with sport cars. What is going on with the redesign of the Jeep Grand Cherokee? It was originally slated for 2018, then 2019, and I haven't heard anything significant
That's
this year.
a really good question. Actually, somebody else commented on that who has a little bit more insight than I do. And I received a text just a few days ago when we were on our race trip, which is, we'll talk about at the end of the show.
That a little bit, yeah.
And this is what supposedly is being said. They're looking at a new platform that they have been testing. Once again, this is not confirmed. And it may be based on the same platform they're using with the Stelvio, and basically a stretched version of it. So it is lighter and it is better handling, yet will have all the four-wheel drive ability of the current model. Now, this is what I've heard.
Interesting.
Now, on top of that, it may be the same platform that they use for the upcoming Jeep Wagoneer or Grand Wagoneer, and that'll be a 7-passenger SUV. So we're hearing that this is happening, but there is no confirmation. Hopefully, at the LA Auto Show, which is happening at the end of next month, we're going to get a lot more information.
Very interesting. Back to the Mustang, because we kind of interrupted ourselves there. We just drove a Mustang a few weeks ago. It's a really good car. You can get anything from the 2.3-liter EcoBoost four-cylinder to, there's the 5-liter V8 or a 5.2-liter flat-plane crank V8 in the GT350, which comes in under 60 grand. The Mustang has been one of the best-selling cars ever in total. They sold their 10 millionth unit just earlier this year. We actually drag raced one recently. We took a 5-liter, it was red, and we raced against TFL's long-term Hellcat at Bandemere. The Mustang did a quarter mile with the manual transmission in 14.2 seconds up here at a mile above sea level, which is pretty impressive. I have to say the automatic is supposedly much, much faster. That transmission is apparently able to shave like a full second off a quarter mile time, which is really amazing.
So we hear.
So we hear. We haven't tested that yet ourselves. We'll have to do that ourselves. But the Mustang, it's just they make one for everybody. It's the king of muscle cars as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's been around. It's the only one without any production brakes in its really long history. It's the choice sports car for many people.
One of the things that recently happened with the Mustang is they went from a solid rear axle to an independent rear end.
Yeah.
And by doing that, they've changed the characteristics of its handling. And it's taken some time for them to do this because a lot of the competitors had this for a long time. So, you know, it's a great thing to see Mustang staying up with the changes now. And their newest version of that car, I drove it as well, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. As a matter of fact, I think that the interior of the new Mustang is better than the interior of the Camaro or of the Challenger. I think it's a better interior. So, yeah, let's, you know, for old men who have driven these cars for the past 30 years or so and actually have a little bit of experience driving many different models, I got to tell you, well done, Mustang. Okay, let's move on to our bonus.
The bonus is the Alfa Romeo 4C, which is the bonus because of how few cars it sold last month. Do you know how many this is? Just tell the people.
19 units.
19. Hold on. We can hold up 19 on our four hands. Can you give me a 9? Just put up a 9.
Here's the 9.
There,
but
yeah.
You know, I'm not making fun of that car because it is a fantastic track car. Beautiful on the track.
I'm sure it's great.
Nearly impossible to get in and out of if you're a large person or a short person. So you have to be in between in order to be, you know, the sill is literally this wide. You have to go over to get in.
Yeah.
Now, sad news, that car is going away, but its cousin, the Spider, is staying.
The Spider is staying. You know what's funny about that figure of 19 units? That's actually down from the last month or last year in which they sold 23. You know, it's not a big volume seller. It is a really cool little car, though, and you had the chance to drive one and absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I had a chance to drive it in the Bay Area and also on the racetrack with Andre. And that's an old video from a couple years back, but it's still relevant because basically they haven't changed the car.
Not at all.
You know what? It's a real shame. I wish they had that car with a manual transmission where they dropped the price, say about $5,000.
Yeah.
That car would have sold, but when I asked about a manual transmission, the guy who was responsible for the car yelled at me, and I think in Italian. So, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
But that's the way it goes. Let's move on, though, because we've got the Craigslist challenge.
Yeah, so we tried to find some even more budget-minded sports cars on Craigslist. You have 2 picks, I have 2 picks, so why don't you get us started, Nathan?
Yeah, now this is for under $5,000, and this is sort of something that's kind of fun for you guys to get out there if you wanted to get an extra car to wrench on a little bit and have a performance vehicle that's really cheap. So I found a Chevy Corvette in '85 for $4,500.
Whoa.
Manual transmission.
Yeah.
5.7 liter V8. 230 horsepower.
Ooh.
But 330 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah,
but
that's good. That's
it weighs 3,200 pounds, which is 250 pounds less than the C7.
So
Something to keep in
relatively
mind.
lightweight, lots of torque, manual transmission. I like it.
I'm willing to bet that this thing leaks in every possible way, and most likely the interior smells of sin.
Well,
It's $4,500 for a Corvette. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that in terms of whether or not it's going to be a reliable ride. But hey, look at it this way. It'd be a hell of a fun project. And my second choice, and this is done out of love because I did like this car when it came out, is the 2006 Mazda Speed 6 for $2,000.
$2,000?
Yeah,
Whoa.
but as you can see, the guy who... I'm assuming it's a guy who had
got green wheels.
Definitely had some fun with it. And that dent on the side looks like somebody went into a pole sideways thinking they could drift.
Oh, but he's got the
little
the
winglets.
vortex generators and red mud guards.
Oh yeah. It's going to cost you $1,000 just to pull all that stuff off of it.
Oh, yikes.
But one of the reasons why I'm close to the Mazda Speed 6 is it was one of the earlier cars I reviewed when I was with VHICS. And the good news is with that car, if you can get one in good condition, it's a fantastic all-wheel drive car that you can get with a manual transmission and have a lot of fun with. The bad news is sometimes you'll see ones like this, which were obviously abused.
Yeah.
2.3-liter engine, 4-cylinder engine, 274 horsepower, 280 pound-feet of torque in a vehicle that is relatively light.
Yeah, they're pretty quick.
Yeah, so fun car. Highly recommend it, but maybe not this one.
Well, Nathan, those were okay, but let the big boy step in here and show you how it's done. My first pick, I see your Corvette, and I raise you a Pontiac Firebird for less money, $4,000. It's got a brand new Chevy 350 under the hood. Look at that, Edelbrock air intake, 5-speed manual transmission, a 410 rear axle, and wait for it. Look at the interior. Look at that Trans Am. It's brown. Look at the shifter. It's got the handle shifter. I don't know what more you need than this. This is the pinnacle of automotive excellence. Can you go back to the exterior shot? Well, the hood's black and not painted very well, but it's got these intake. Look at that thing. That is a steal. 1984 Pontiac Firebird. That's what you need right there, Nathan.
I actually owned a Fire Chicken once, and but it was a V6. Long story.
Well, see.
And I could say that the heritage is there, but when you have giant nostrils on your
it's for
top
better
of your
airflow.
hood,
That is great airflow.
air intake actually,
That is
and
just does that. Just
I'm.
and then it spits out V8 exhaust.
Could be a really good project car for you guys, though. So keep an eye out for that. Don't you have one more?
Yeah, number 2 is a 1997 Mustang GT for $3,000. It's also black. 4.6 liter modular V8 engine that made 215 horsepower and 285 pound-feet of torque. Once again with the manual transmission. This one's maybe the cleaner thing that I found. Kinda.
Signpost sticker. It's a race car.
It's a race car. It's got checkered flag on it. It's a race car.
It's a race car.
It's a Mustang. It's a Mustang.
Yeah.
$3,000 for Mustang.
You know, the really good news is that right now these types of cars are really easy to come by. So if you ever wanted a little project to put in your backyard, now's the time to hit. I mean, guys, they're all out there.
You need like a little drag queen, right? Well.
Wow, really?
Maybe not that. A drag strip.
No, stick with the drag queen while you're here.
We're not going to call it a drag queen. A drag strip car. You know, if you needed something like that, you just take it to the drag strip and just burn quarter miles.
I have
Could be a good way to go.
a column that goes on TFLcar.com every Sunday. It's called Ask Nathan. And, you know, we got a lot of questions in here. And there's this one kid who's 13 years old, and he wanted a car to wrench on until he was old enough to drive. Mm-hmm. And something like this actually would be pretty cool. And he can learn a lot about cars as he's wrenching through it. And, you know, get into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to actually build up a car and make it real. So something to think about. Really cheap cars out there that are, well, potentially fast. All right. We're just about out of time, so let's quickly do the pictures of the day.
Yep.
The first one. Oh, yeah.
Look at that. So you guys let us know what you think it is in the comments.
It's not a Volkswagen.
Not
guys.
exactly. No.
Although it does have some similar components in terms of the location of those components.
That is really cool. It's also very green.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can get a hint at what it is because there's a GTR in the background. But
nope.
No, it doesn't tell you what the brand is itself. But
it might be Japanese.
It might be Japanese.
By the way, I've driven one of these. Oh, and those doors are suicide doors.
Oh, nice. Yeah, the hinges are back here.
Mm-hmm.
This one is like, it looks like a Zero. It has this little red dot over here.
One of the ad
Wait, is it convertible?
No, there was a top that you can pull down.
The top rolls back?
It does, yeah, it sort of unsnaps.
Wow.
So the good news is when they were doing the ad campaigns for these vehicles in the 60s, in the United States, they're saying something to the effect of it's really ugly but really cheap. That was in the ad campaign.
They said it's really ugly?
Yeah,
well,
they
it's
actually,
pretty ugly.
Yeah, I think it's almost
cute.
endearing.
It's kind of cute, yeah.
Yeah, that's about, by the way, about half the size and almost half the weight of the equivalent Bug from the late 60s.
Yikes.
All right, you want to move on to the next one, see if anybody does this? Now, this one you guys should get because it didn't go away that long ago.
Yeah.
Now,
that is even uglier.
Something to keep in mind.
Oh, someone got it.
Which one?
Andy T001 Subaru 360. That is correct.
That is right.
That is
a Subaru 360. If we can go back to it, it had a little 2-cylinder, 2-stroke engine. But it had a very special thing where you could actually, instead of having to add the oil to the gas manually, it actually had its own little filler that you fill up the oil and it would automatically
Ooh.
combine the oil with the
Wow.
gas.
Fancy.
Yeah, I think around 30 horsepower was
yeah.
its maximum output.
Nice.
Yeah, not a fast car, but it was actually sold here in the United States for a little while. Let's go back to the next one, see if anybody comes up with this one. Now, this one,
Yep,
once
I got
again, Japanese.
Michael Faust, the Suzuki X90.
The Suzuki X90, based on the same platform as the Suzuki Sidekick, which cost about the same price. Now, here's the thing. The X90 gave you a 2-passenger cockpit and a T-top.
The world's smallest T-top.
But it made no sense. It really couldn't go off-road very well. It handled terribly on-road. It's another vehicle that I got a chance to sample. But the Sidekick could go off-road better, could hold 4 people, didn't have a T-top, but it was a much better vehicle. So the idea of this car, it was inane, and I don't understand why it was put into production, and it certainly didn't help Suzuki's image here in the United States. Alrighty, guys. Well, that's about it. Let's quickly tell you one more thing. We have just recently wrapped on our not so great race.
The not so great race. So
We can't tell you any details. It was a surprise ending, and I can tell you this.
look at you guys. You're in and out.
Well, hell yeah.
That's cute.
Both teams are very tired, and we're
Oh,
still
gosh.
recovering.
Beat.
Yeah, it was a long, hard race. Now, think about it. One race was from Chicago to Boulder. The other race was from Malibu to Boulder. Both about the same mileage.
About
So
1,000 miles.
over 1,000 of them, both
A
sides.
little over.
So
Oh,
we will
yeah.
give you details. We are just starting the editing process for these videos, and they will be coming out hopefully in the next few days, possibly 2 videos. We'll see.
Look at that. That's, you know where that is.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's Warren Buffett's house.
Because that's the place I always want to go to.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Buffett,
Pretty much
if
the
my
biggest-
friends bothered you while they were there. I have in no way any connection with them
Well, I
legally
think
or
they
otherwise.
thought that we were the FBI because we were in a black Suburban.
Yeah, and then Mr. Truck comes out. He
Yeah.
definitely looks like a Fed.
No, we're undercover.
Yeah!
We're undercover.
So we've been tweeting about it. It's been on Facebook. It's
Yep.
been on Instagram. Check it out. Prepare for some interesting stuff.
Oh man.
I can't quite tell you some of the humiliating stuff we've had to go through in order to put this together for you.
But did you have fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
it
had
was a
fun too.
great adventure. Hey, are there any more comments before we go?
There
real
were
quick.
some questions that came up. Let me go see. if
Okay,
I can
real
find
quick,
them.
1 or 2 questions, then we got to split.
Oh, Raleigh Car Guy said, can Nathan elaborate on his test drive of the Challenger Scat Pack wide body?
Yeah, that we actually have a video of that, which should be on TFL Car. And the only thing I can tell you is that I did get a chance to put it on the track. I did not. Now, there's 2 different Scat Pack packages. One's the 1320 or whatever they call it, which is the one for drag racing.
racing.
I have not driven that one yet. The one I drove was the track pack, basically,
Right.
version. And yeah, in terms of its overall handling, it outhandles any Hellcat that I've driven. However, because of its lack of horsepower, because it's a regular RT, basically, it's not as fast, obviously.
Yeah.
But in terms of handling, the thing handles beautifully. It's a question of whether or not you want to spend extra money in order to have a vehicle like that. Oh, here we go.
Oh gosh. Whoa. Whoa. Look at that.
One of the props from our show that we just recently did that we were
Kent
telling
and I
you
were
about.
we were team Windy Dogs, so we had to get these.
Loser dogs.
Windy Dogs. Windy Dogs. Hey,
Any
Andre,
more question?
Andre, come back here. Actually, we have a question for you. Come over here.
Hey guys.
Damian Gutierrez asks, is the V8 Raptor really capable for off-road just like the regular Raptor? Could you really go rock crawling just like the V6 Raptor? You know that V8 Raptor you got to drive?
Right. I think it is. So there's a couple of things that does not have. The V8 Raptor clone that I drove.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the Torsen front differential.
Okay.
And I think that's about it.
What about the off-road modes? Doesn't have those either?
You can reproduce those off-road modes.
Okay.
So like the Baja mode, you can go in 4 high, or you can lock the rear end. So I would say yes, it's capable within the capability of most mortals. You know.
So maybe like closer to an FX4 than to a Raptor, though.
No, but it's higher and wider, and it
so
has
you
the
still
same
have the
suspension.
suspension. Okay,
Right, you have
so
all
yeah.
the suspension, so you do have that capability. But the Raptor is not really a rock crawler.
No, but it can do it in a pinch, believe me.
I mean, it's a high-speed runner, and the V8 Raptor Oh, it just sounds so good.
It does. It really sounds good. Okay, you can get out. You can get out of here now.
Thanks, Andre.
All right,
All right,
thanks.
guys.
See ya.
Remember, stay tuned for the not so great race.
Yeah,
That
you
video's
can,
coming soon, and we got a lot of other videos coming your way
So much
really
stuff.
soon.
You guys can go. I do really encourage you to check out our Instagram at TFL Car because we were posting pictures basically the whole way along the race. You can see
And on Twitter, of course, as well.
and on Twitter all the cool stuff we did. But we'll catch you guys next time.
All right, play us out.
Play us out. Yep. Hold on. Let me load it up.
And thanks for putting up with our crap, guys.
Do you have a dog? A dancing dog?
I really don't want one either. I'm good without the dancing dog. Trust me, I had a dancing unicorn.